My sister's with me today, and Phil's kindly driven me up from Suffolk, where we're going back this afternoon. And he said, "Have you got any of your awful jokes to tell?"
Oh no.
Well, there's one. And some of you will have heard it before. I was giving a talk, and I said I'd been a hostage for 5 years. And a lady was there with her little girl. And she wrote to me afterwards, and she said, when I got home, my daughter turned to me and she said, "Mummy, is it true? Was that man really an ostrich?" Well, it taught me ever since to be careful what you say and how it's interpreted. As you know, I was a hostage for 5 years. I used to be engaged in that difficult and dangerous business of negotiating for the release of hostages. And eventually, you can't do that forever without either being killed or captured. Unfortunately, I was only captured and spent those years in total isolation, chained to the wall, sleeping on the floor with meagre food, a mock execution and torture and all that goes with it, the things you might expect worse could happen. But it wasn't all negative. Looking back on that, although obviously I wouldn't wish to go through that experience again, there was something valuable that came from it. Before being captured, I'd always had sympathy for people who were on the margins of life. You know, the homeless, prisoners, people who were desperately ill. But in captivity, that sympathy was changed to empathy. Sympathy is to be sorry for. Empathy is to know what it's like to have nothing, to be kicked around. And many people who find themselves homeless today find themselves in that position. Hopeless. I mean, I can't imagine what it's like to have to sleep out on these cold nights. I remember on one occasion, one of my anniversaries, I took a group of people to a nice restaurant in London. Amongst them were some companions. And one companion looked through the window. This was in the market square in London. And he looked through the window and he said, "You know, I never thought I should ever eat in this restaurant. For 10 years, I slept under a table in that market, just down there," and he pointed to it. And that's common experience. I was introduced to Emmaus 33 years ago. It was Robert Rumsey, who was the first president, former Archbishop of Canterbury, and he said, "I'd like you to be involved in helping get Emmaus started." And I agreed to that. And we started in Cambridge. All we had was a porter cabin and an ex-policeman who said he got fed up with just locking people up. He wanted to do something to help people. And so he became the first coordinator. And we got started. Cambridge now, you wouldn't recognise it. It's a marvellous community. And then we developed. We've now got, I think, 30 communities across the UK. And I have to congratulate people in Liverpool for developing this community, and for all the supporters who've put their backs into making this a go. It's been every community I've been associated with, and that's all 30, they've never had an easy time. You know, initially here, you had 12 years when you were moving up and down, not making progress, and then suddenly things begin to form and shape, and look at the community now. And these are just the early days. Bigger things lie in the future. That's due to two things. It's due to good leadership by the trustees and those who support them. Good support from volunteers who really are excellent good support from all the voluntary agencies like Crash and many others who've put their backs into supporting a worthwhile venture, and primarily to companions. The companions are the heart of Emmaus. I often wish myself that I might be called an honorary companion after serving 30 years or more, because I think the companions, male and female, have done brilliantly. They've been determined to put their backs into it, to work according to their capacity, and to make a viable life for themselves and for others. But the great thing about Emmaus is this: it's not only that the community companion works for his or her well-being. By doing that, you're working for the well-being of the community. I mean, I've only got to point to just one nearby, Moseley. Moseley's made a terrific transformational difference to Moseley itself. And people now come in from Manchester and all around to make a day out in Moseley because of Emmaus. The same is going to happen and will happen here in Liverpool. This marvellous facility here is going to produce income, which will then help us further develop the work. And it's marvellous to see an organisation and a group of people who are saying, we're going to do it, we can do it, it's rooted in the locality, and yet it's got support right around the country. And that's what Emmaus is in solidarity, not only in this country, but overseas. I've just been to a new community we're starting in Stoke last week, and Stoke have no premises yet, apart from one big warehouse that were filled with goods, and that, because of Moseley and other communities around, is now filled with goods for sale, and they've started to build up a fund to begin to get a new Emmaus community going in Stoke. My ambition has been, when I said this 30 years ago, to have an Emmaus community in every major centre in the UK. Well, I hope I'm going to live long enough. I'm 85 now, but maybe I've got another 5 years to achieve that target. You never know. Let's see if we can. But meanwhile, a big thank you to everybody. I can't mention you all by name. I wish I could, but I can't. But you know who you are. A big thank you to everybody. And may I say, on behalf of the whole of Emmaus, thank you very much, and all success for the future. Thank you.